The candidates will now be invited to give a 2-minute summation as to why we should vote for them. And if they choose to do so, they can use the podium. Hilary.
Well, thanks very much. I think we've had a great discussion today. Whatever the outcome of this contest, can we please keep talking? What will I do in this job? I will champion a straightforward kind of politics that listens, that acts on what we hear. Because if we don't do that, we are not going to overcome the cynicism that in the end will destroy every single one of us. I think the party wants a deputy leader who's going to unite all of us. And I will support Gordon Brown 100%, but I'll tell him what he needs to hear when he needs to hear it. I think party members want to be heard and they want to be listened to. They want to be proud of what the government is doing. And I think we've got to take the fight to the Tories and to the SNP. And as we discussed today, in the end, it's about the responsibility that you take, and we have to fight the SNP here in Scotland every step of the way. And do you know the best way of doing that? It is to be unapologetic as a party about our values. Because I think in the end, our values matter as much as our policies. Indeed, they should shape them. And that's why I want a country in which we act on our concern about injustice, whether it's in our own communities or whether it's across this globe of ours. I want a culture in which we celebrate the contribution that people make, whether it's in business or public service or in trade unions or in community groups, because it is about the answer to the question that you put on behalf of Willie. I want a society in which we value as much the relationships we have one with another as we do economic stability, even though it is important. I want a democracy in which we do ask people to give something back as well as asking things of others. I want a world in which we put the fight for justice at the heart of our foreign policy, working with others. And what we want more than anything else is to continue to have a Labour government which doesn't just redistribute wealth, but power and opportunity, because every one of us knows that in the end is how we're going to change the communities we come from, the country we are proud of, and the world of which we are part for the better.
Well, I think Tony Blair and John Prescott have done a great job for this party. They led us out of opposition and into government, and not just any type of government, not just the normal traditional Labour government, which is a short interlude in Conservative rule, but 3 periods in office. And I really believe now we've begun to see just how you can start to transform society by long periods in office. I've been in this party for 33 years. I remember the 80s when our slogan seemed to be no compromise with the electorate. And of course, the reasons why we've won 3 successive general elections is not because the people of Scotland have voted for us, because they backed us through thick and thin, as have people in my own constituency. It's because we managed to get this coalition of forces that meant we won seats like Hastings, and meant we won seats in Kent, and meant we won Selby and Hove and Eastwood, that was the constituency in Glasgow. And it's that kind of coalition that we need to keep together. But obviously, we are facing our biggest challenge. Cameron is not Duncan Smith and he's not William Hague. And what the Conservatives are trying to do is to capture that centre ground. We hold the centre ground, except that we've shifted it to the left over the last 10 years. Things like international development, work-life balance, the national minimum wage, all would have been thought to be left-wing issues. Now we've made them mainstream issues. And we mustn't desert that centre ground. But what we must do now is to reinvigorate, rejuvenate, re-inspire our members and the British public. There's no better leader to do that than Gordon Brown, because I think now the public are ready for a serious focus on policy. Not the kind of publicity stunts we've seen. Oh, there's David with a load of huskies in the snow in Alaska. He must be really concerned about the environment. Oh, there he is in a school in Hull. He must be worried about education. When we get onto policy, that's where the Tories fall apart, as we found over the last 2 weeks on grammar schools, as we found previously with the married couples allowance, as we found before that with a tax on air flights. So we have the opportunity now to win the next election and make the 21st century the century of the progressive left, just as the 20th century was the century of the regressive right.
Well, I think we've had a fantastic session today, like all the other hustings that we've been to, rediscovering ideas, policies, finding that passion and conviction that brought every single one of us into the Labour Party. And I can tell you it's actually working, because since we started doing these deputy leadership hustings, there's 1,000 new members a week been joining the Labour Party. Now, wouldn't it be good if we could carry on doing this? I did suggest to my colleagues that if we did this for a year, we would have rebuilt the Labour Party. But there weren't a lot of takers for that, and me included, to be honest. But it is a serious point. I think that we've got to carry on engaging with the party on ideas, on policies and on values in order to renew our movement. Now, I want to be deputy leader because I do think that we need a full-time deputy leader. And if we have a campaigning person out there in our communities, actually, John, we don't need to have an appointed party chair. And I'm probably the first politician you're going to meet that says you should abolish her own job. So as far as I'm concerned, it's being out there on behalf of the party and campaigning. I absolutely believe we have to stay camped on the centre ground of politics. The Tories are resurgent. It's no longer embarrassing to be a Tory, unfortunately. And unless we absolutely keep that centre ground, we're going to be in trouble at the next election. That means improving education. It certainly means continuing to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour. And we've got Kenny McCaskill from the SNP today saying be nice to the Neds, and Cameron hugging hoodies and all of that. Now, we do need more youth facilities for young people, but I tell you, the mums and the pensioners want us to be there taking action and sorting out the problems on those streets. It was one of the most successful bits of the Labour policy in Scotland was to tackle antisocial behaviour, and let's not forget that and keep that ground. I think you need a deputy leader who's going to be focused on winning that next general election. And of course, you know, I want to win this contest, but I tell you this, I want to win that general election that's coming even more than I want to win this contest. And that's why I'm saying to all of us, let's keep that centre ground. Let's keep the Tories absolutely off it. Let's attack the SNP with every ounce of our strength over the next 2 years. And I tell you, it's there for the taking for us if we keep our nerve, keep where we are, keep our politics, keep our values, and above all, build our party organisation to take us forward. Thank you.
John.
Thank you very much. I want to be deputy leader of the Labour Party because I want to help us win the next election. But to do that, I think we have to change. And I think we have to change quite dramatically, both in terms of the party itself, but also in terms of the policy priorities of the government. We talked about party organisational matters in our earlier discussion, but we have. And we need to continuously remember this. We've lost 200,000 members. We lost 500 councillors this month alone. The activist base continues to decline. More of the same is not the solution. We need a dramatic overhaul of our party structures, and that should be led by the full-time deputy leader of the Labour Party, charged with that, and charged also with articulating the views of the party to the government. In terms of policy, I think things have to change as well. If you look at the 4.5 million voters who've deserted Labour since 1997, disproportionately black and ethnic minority voters, disproportionately public service workers, disproportionately a group they characterise as urban intellectuals who've left. About 1.25 million went straight from Labour to the Liberals on the issue of the war from 2001 to 2005. And disproportionately working class, especially manual worker voters, who think we haven't done enough to address their insecurities at the workplace. Now, we need to forge a new policy platform, partly through reconciling ourselves over the mistakes in the world, partly through addressing material insecurities at the workplace, especially around the abuses around migrant workers, especially around confronting housing inequalities, dealing with health inequalities. We need a real radical agenda in terms of defending the central architecture of a multicultural society. And to do that, we need to change some of the moves that have been made over the last couple of years. Now, that will be a big ask. It's not about a lurch to the left. It's about a lurch to the mainstream in terms of a new policy agenda to confront the contemporary challenges that we all face. I think we can do it. And if we get it right, we can rebase ourselves as what the Labour Party is at best, as a vehicle to articulate the insecurities of working people and develop a programme of economic and social emancipation for those very same working people. Thank you very much for listening.
The biggest single challenge we face to win next time is to inspire people about our values and bring them back to us, back home to Labour. My values were forged when I saw my parents courageously struggling against apartheid in the old South Africa, sent to jail, issued with banning orders, eventually forced to leave the country, and I was inspired by them to become a leader of the anti-apartheid movement, to stop rugby and cricket tours, and also to form the Anti-Nazi League to fight the National Front with their racism and their poison, then to join the trade union movement, to come into the Labour Party 30 years ago, and now to be a candidate for the deputy leadership. And what inspires me is that my politics is not about a career, it's about a passion for our values. And we've got to reach out to all the people that we've lost and bring them back in. And we'll do that not just by celebrating the achievements that we've had in government, and they've been many, record numbers of jobs, record public investment, the minimum wage, the fight against poverty at home and abroad, they've been many, but we made mistakes as well. And Iraq has been very difficult. So more of the same won't do the job next time. We've got to change. We've got to offer a radical new vision, leading the world in the fight against climate change and taking that agenda away from Cameron and the Liberal Democrats, making sure we prioritise the fight against equality with more affordable housing for rent or to purchase right at the centre of our policy, making sure we spread democracy right the way through the House of Lords down to local government with more power decentralised to local communities and individuals, and ensuring we reposition our place in the world as the architects of a progressive internationalism right across the world. And to do all of that, you need a deputy leader who reconnects the cabinet, the heart of the policy making, seeing and influencing all that policy, being right in there, back to the party. I would be the umbilical cord between the cabinet and the grassroots of the country and the trade union movement and the party as well. If we celebrate our values, doing all of that, of social justice, of equality, of a commitment to human rights and democracy, we will beat the Tories, and not only just beat the Tories, beat the SNP and the Liberal Democrats as well, and win the next election.
Thanks. Well, I think from your questions, the task ahead of us is clear. I think we've got to rebuild the party and we've got to win back the full trust and confidence of the British people. I think we can rebuild the party, but it's got to be a powerful and democratic party. People will rejoin the party, new people will join, but they've got to have a say. And whether the challenge comes from the Tories, the BNP, the Lib Dems, or the Scots Nats, we know that our strength is in local parties and building up that membership. And that's what I've done in my local party, in my constituency, where we've got an active campaigning party, 700 strong, and we can do that. I think we must never lose sight of the good that Labour has done. Never lose sight of the good that Labour's done in Scotland and in England and in Wales. But we must recognise the problems people still have in their lives. And I think John's been right on this. We've spent a lot on repairing council homes, but there's still a terrible shortage. There are more jobs in the economy, but people feel very insecure in work. And we must have, as well as tackling poverty, we must have a more equal society. I think we've also got to take the attack to the Tories. The Tory press has been giving Cameron a free ride. And I think we've got to be saying very clearly, if you want substance, if you want commitments, experience and principle, then Gordon Brown's your man. But if you want style, shallowness, opportunism, then you've got a choice. You can either have David Cameron or Alex Salmond. And we've got to warn as well women, because Cameron is trying to get the women's vote, because he wants to get into number 10 on the women's vote. We've got to warn our sisters. We know what men like Cameron are like. They are only interested in women for one thing and one thing only, and that is their vote. Now, this is a task for the whole team. Labour Party members, trade unions, Labour in local government, as well as the leadership. But we've got to have the right leadership. We've got to have the leadership that can win support from women as well as men, from the north right through to the south. And the polls show absolutely clearly that it is me, alongside Gordon Brown, that gives Labour the best chance of winning a fourth term. And for the millions of people that need Labour in government, we must not let them down.